This episode is brought to you by Airbnb. Hi, Pashi.
Hi, Sufi. I got an update from out in the world, Seth.
What's the update?
We did a news piece for WMUR.
Oh, yeah.
Our local New Hampshire, I think it was New Hampshire Chronicle, maybe.
Yep. Erin, right? That's her name? Erin
Yeah.
Fayou? Is that right?
Yeah. So we did that piece, and it was nominated for an Arts and Entertainment News Emmy in the 47th Boston, New England Emmys.
Uh-huh.
And we lost.
Thank you. It's a good update.
Lost. Yeah. We lost to anti-graffiti vigilantes, which I watched.
Uh-huh.
It was a story about people had been putting graffiti on these rocks on the Rhode Island coast. And this local artist, Holly Flagg, which is a name that's very much like Bill Wall.
Yeah.
But
Made
Holly
up.
Flagg took it upon herself to go out and sort of paint the rocks to look like they did before there was paint on them. So she's painting over graffiti, and then she's got a bunch of other local artists and other volunteers, and if people muck up those beautiful rocks, they go out and they paint over it. And
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think where you're going is you and I are going to spray paint on some rocks. We were robbed. Family trips forever.
it was a very good
Hashtag
story.
where's
It was
our
a good
Emmy?
story. They had
All right.
drone shots
Oh.
of the Rhode Island coast.
And I will say, it would have been very dumb if there were drone shots in the piece about us and mom and dad in our podcast.
Yeah, but it was an honor to be nominated.
An honor to be nominated. We also just went back to New Hampshire, Pashi.
We did.
It was thanks to Nissan, the new Nissan Rock Creek Pathfinder.
I think they call it the Pathfinder Rock Creek, but to each his own.
And they got us in one of those to go on a drive to surprise mom and dad.
Yeah, they
knew.
said, where did you want to, where could you guys take a road trip?
Yeah.
And the best place I could think of with our schedules and with just our lives in general was, let's go surprise mom and dad. Really, the surprise was on mom. We had to loop dad in. But.
We surprised mom. It was really fantastic. And I can't remember the last time we've been in a car together for 2 hours. Especially when I thought it was going to be a 1 hour drive. Shout out to Boston traffic. But really wonderful to be in a car with you.
Yeah.
We were listening. We did some podcast recording, but when we weren't podcast recording, we were listening to WZLX, which was a classic rock station we listened to as kids. Still jamming out the hot tunes.
Yeah. Classic rock feels like childhood, feels like New England to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like I don't ever listen to classic rock anymore. I certainly do. But it hit well.
Yeah,
for where we were in life.
Summertime drive, 93 North, listening to classic rock on WZLX. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I mean, we'll talk more about it, but we went to dinner at a restaurant that mom and dad eat at. It's the only restaurant I think they eat at.
It might be.
It's called the Copper Door. It's wonderful.
Yeah, there are 2 Copper Doors, to my knowledge, in New Hampshire. There's, I think, one in Nashua, but there's one in Bedford. And it's packed.
It's packed. Dad made the res because, it was a surprise for mom.
Yeah.
And so they take us to the back room.
Mm-hmm.
And Dad's not with us because he's talking to somebody. So they sit us down.
No surprise there.
No surprise there. Mom immediately is like, well, I didn't make the res because we're sitting in the back room. Immediately she's upset about it.
Yeah.
And I say to mom, don't say anything. Just don't say anything. It's fine.
Yeah.
Don't say you're upset we're in the back room. How long do you think she made it?
Until the second Dad sat down, he hadn't put his napkin on his lap.
I feel like she gave it a little more time than that, but then she couldn't resist. She just had to do it. She had to be like, well, I thought you were talking about that back room.
Yeah. But it was like our one dinner we were going to have together. And in the main room, there was live music because, again, the Copper Door's popping off.
Rocking and popping.
Packed. And I don't know if our conversation would have been disrupted by the live music.
I agree. I think in the end, the back room is better. And I just want to give Dad his props.
Yeah.
Also, mom made it seem as though it wasn't that dad wasn't smart enough to ask. She was treating it like she's sort of a local celebrity. They would never they would never throw that sort of insult at her.
Yeah.
And then we're mentioning a sponsor that's not even a sponsor for this week's podcast. But we then went over to have some drinks with some of my college buddies, Bubba and Hendu.
Yeah.
And as we got out of the car, you told me I had to put on deodorant.
Yeah, or change a shirt. When we were looking at the car, I almost was like, maybe we need a different car because this car smells bad.
Yeah.
And but I was like, but I don't know, maybe it's like where the car is parked. Maybe it's the garage.
Yeah.
And turns out it was you.
It was not Nissan related. That's what you're getting at?
Nope.
Not at all. The Nissan, you're off the hook as far as the odor went.
Yeah, so I suggested maybe you put deodorant on. And you'd come straight from the airport, and your bags were still in the car. And why couldn't you put deodorant on?
They didn't have any.
Right.
You had some.
I sure did. I had my Mando.
You have a former Family Trips sponsor. So you had your
maybe
Mando.
Future after
Future,
this.
yeah. I mean, because it really came in handy. You also, you said you smell terrible, and I said, you know what I think it's from. And I was setting up. My joke was going to be, I don't bathe or shower.
Yeah,
but I go, you know what I think it's from, and you said your armpits, and that made mom laugh really hard. Just getting burned.
Just getting burned. I mean, if we want, I don't know if you mind these hygiene burns if they're going to keep coming.
Well, the only thing I'll say is, we live a real organic lifestyle over the Myers family.
Your Myers family, or the one that you and I come from?
Mine.
Yeah. All right.
So the sort of deodorant we use is what I like to call wildly ineffective.
Well, I'll also say in our time at home, you were there for a night. I don't know that you got in that shower. It's right next to my bedroom. I feel
definitely not. But I also left at 4:45 in the morning.
Yeah, but you've flown in that day. You could have taken a shower before bed, or the next morning.
Yeah,
I also saw no evidence of a toothbrush in our shared bathroom.
I try to keep that. I look pretty on the down low.
No evidence of you in that bathroom. Like
I'll tell you this: Mom did not know I was coming, but I've slept in my childhood bed. I can't believe I slept in it. It's like sleeping on a concrete block. And the pillow, I feel it's like the hardest pillow.
Oh, yeah. There was some discussion about that bed wasn't made up and that Dad should have made it up. But he told Mom that he assumed you would have, grabbed a pillow or a blanket from
Sure, the guy who doesn't bring
else.
a toothbrush is going to...
But you wouldn't take the 20 seconds to go to the linen closet?
I sleep best when I act as though I've been thrown in a jail cell, and it's my job to just make the best of things.
Do you even know what that's a linen closet upstairs? The door next to our bathroom that would have
I don't think you're allowed to go in there. I always thought that's where we kept the family secrets. You spent a few more days. I came home to the kids.
Yeah.
Did you have a good trip with Mom and Dad?
I did. It was great. We played a little golf.
Uh-huh.
We were tired. We'd get home and we were like 8:30. It felt like it was time to shut it down. And I wanted to see some friends. But every night when we'd get home, it just felt like, we were passing out on the couch.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
But yeah, some beautiful days, some good rain one night. That was really fun.
I want to give you a compliment. You have maybe speaking of burns, since that's obviously the theme of this, the listener episode song, one of the all-time best. If you have not listened, first of all, I highly recommend if anyone skips over the listener episodes, you've made a grand mistake. They're really, truly wonderful stories from the likes of you.
Yeah.
Maybe you're sore because you didn't have a good listener story and you didn't send one in. But listen to it. And Josh, it's one of the best burns on me.
Yeah. You hadn't listened to it, and we were together, and I was like, hey, it had come out. And I was like, if you listen to that song, and it was you were like looking at your phone, and you're like, oh, no, I haven't listened yet. And then you called the other day, and you were in the car alone after dropping Ash off at camp. And I was like, you should listen to that. And then you called me back, angry that you'd been burned yet again.
A real unfair. I feel I was not aware. When you listen to it, just know it. I feel as though my rights were violated.
Well, tell it to the judge.
We've got this guy's a great storyteller. He's a great talk show guest. He's David Duchovny. He has a Jaws story. It's not Jaws, but you'll know when he's talking about Jaws. There are a few times where a guest tells a story that's so good that I tell mom and dad before they listen.
Right.
And that rose to this level.
Yeah. I'm going to say Mr. Duchovny does it better justice.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I don't feel like I spoil it because it's going to be so much better when he does it.
Yeah.
All right. Listen to him. I have no idea what's going to happen between me talking and him talking.
I think we're just going to roll right into it.
Family trips with the Myers brothers. Family trips with the Myers brothers. Here we go.
Did that work?
That
worked.
Look at this guy. This guy has you can tell he has his own podcast because of how nice his microphone is. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. You guys aren't even in the same room, brothers?
No, we're on
room?
different coasts. We're bi-coastal.
I don't like that.
They wouldn't allow us. They said it
together.
was too big a power base if we were on the same coast. They had to
Hey,
split
wait,
us up.
this is day drinking with Seth, right?
Oh my gosh, a martini glass.
Have I got
It's
I
a
got it
margarita
wrong?
glass with a salted rim.
You
Yes,
might,
that's right.
based on the hour it is, you better be in like I don't know, Western Europe.
I'm in
That should
Greece.
be okay. Oh, you're in Greece. Oh, then that is okay.
Yeah.
It's so lovely to see you, David.
Nice to see you too.
You're
Thank
you're a New York kid.
I am. I grew up on, I don't know why I'm going to get really specific. They took me home from the hospital. I was on 12th and 5th. And then I lived until I was 11 on 18th and 3rd. And then I lived until I went away to college on 11th and 2nd.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
There you go.
So
There you go.
this is basically so you were basically having my kids are growing up like 2 blocks from where you started.
Really?
Yeah, we're downtown. I have downtown kids.
My brother went to, yeah, it's a really good school now. Back then it was an easier school, if you know what I'm saying.
Is that how your brother got in?
That's how my brother got in. None of them are easy now.
When you say it was easier, was it
Yeah.
easy in terms of the subject matter, or the teachers were more easygoing?
I think, to be honest, I think partly it came from originally the Quaker philosophy, which wasn't, not that it wasn't academic, but it just wasn't the kind of, I mean, I went to collegiate after I went to Downtown Community School, which was a hippie school that was founded by Pete Seeger and some other people. And
wow.
It was a wonderful school. There were no classrooms. It was just you had learning centers. I think it was my favorite time to be at school. You just gravitated to wherever you wanted to learn. And the kids learned at a great pace because they were going after the things that they were interested in, which is really the way to do it, I think. But hard to do on a big institutional framework. But the Quakers, they don't sign oaths. They don't have the, I guess I'm going to generalize now, but they don't have that Puritan work ethic. And it was more like a sense of community, unless, you got to get A's to get into the Ivies or whatever the other New York schools were going to be.
Yeah. They don't care what the state capitals are. No. They don't care about
It's wherever you want it to be, man.
They don't care about long
exactly.
division.
Because Josh and I grew up in the suburbs,
Yeah.
got city kids. It's fascinating to watch it happen through their eyes.
Yeah.
Did you love New York City as a kid, or did you love it more in reflection?
I mean, to be honest, Seth, I don't know how you felt when you were a kid, but I never fantasized about being anywhere else. It was just that was my reality, and even in that case, my reality was like a 10-block radius. I lived on 92nd and Central Park West and raised my kids there, but I never went past like 42nd Street when I was a kid. Never until I was in high school and I had rich friends because I was going to a Tony private school. So I pretty much stayed between 11th Street and 23rd Street, for 12, 15 years.
You
And it
wouldn't
was
go to
enough.
Central Park? You didn't have like...
No, we went to Central Park. We were playing softball or something, but I didn't go. As a 10-year-old, I wasn't like I have to go enjoy nature. I just wanted to go and play in the park. My mom would give me $2. I put in my sock, and it wasn't mugger money. People have called that mugger money, but it was like sandwich money. I get a sandwich and a soda, and I'd be out all day. I'd be out all day playing in the park alone.
It's funny,
Not
even
alone.
as an adult, because now I've lived in New York City for, almost 25 years, but I've always lived downtown. I feel like I still only have like a 10-block radius of knowledge. When friends of mine visit the city and say, what should we do?
I know. I hate that question.
It's heartbreaking because I sort of like, I can answer better for a city I recently visited than the one I live in.
I am so much remember that movie, The Accidental Tourist? There was also a book, and it was basically about how to make every place in the world like your room. So wherever you go, you just feel like you're not experiencing anything new or unsettling. And I'm a little like that. Even though I do go all over the world. It's hard to get me out to explore. I love doing it when I do it, but I guess growing up in the city, I felt like I saw everything and was exposed to everything at the youngest ages.
With your sandwich money, did you have a place that you went to? Was it a bodega on the corner, or was it?
Yeah. It was. Well, there was Benny's, who made a great egg cream, and that was on 21st and 2nd. And then there was one on like 19th and 1st, and I can't remember the name of it, but they had like a ham and Swiss that I was pretty attached to.
Oh, very good.
Did you reach a place where you were known by the bodega when you came in?
That's the kind of thing. That's the kind of thing about New York that feels fairly new to me. It's like nobody knew my fucking name anywhere. It's like you're just a fucking kid.
Yeah.
There was a place called the Open Pantry, which was on 12th Street and 2nd Avenue. And I was just talking about this the other day because I'm in Greece and the owners were Greek. And I remember they would extend us credit. And that was really cool because my mom sometimes didn't have money. Not that we had zero money, but she there were times in the month where she had more cash. But they would extend us credit for halva or whatever we were jonesing for at that stage.
And how would they note your credit? Would they just sort of like remember?
I can't remember. It's like that kid. There's that kid again. He's got a nice mom. So everybody loved my mom, so I was okay.
I had a summer. I interned in New York one summer in college, and I started going to the place I interned. I would stop at the, one of those carts in the morning, and I would get a coffee and a pumpernickel bagel with cream cheese. And about halfway through the summer, the guy would have it ready for me, which was the most wonderful thing. I was the first time I felt like a New Yorker. And then when my internship was coming to an end, I remember the last day, I told him, I said, I won't be here on Monday. And he looked at me like I was the craziest person.
like he would care.
Yeah,
like I needed to know that.
I was like, I thought we had this very special thing. And he's like, no, I do this. I got better at this. You mean nothing to me.
We didn't have a doorman, but we had an elevator man. We had one of the old, those manual elevators. And, I don't know that it probably took me 10 years to know the elevator man's name and shit like that. And I was pretty unconscious in general. But my buddy, my best friend for many, many years, he's an actor. Now as well. And he lived on the Upper West Side, and he was a doorman in his own building. That was his summer job. He got a doorman job in his own building. Hey,
great
uniform. Then the best part of it, he got fired for being late.
Great.
He could not get there in time. eight floors down. It was just too long.
Well,
a
could he
commute.
blame the elevator man?
Yeah. We just lost our hand-controlled elevator. They put in new elevators in our building, and it was
Really?
heartbreaking. It was so
Yeah.
cool.
Kind of guy.
And we could also, it was basically like a rotation. And there were some guys who just never figured it out, and they'd always stop like a full foot too high or like pull up way too short. And so there were
Yeah.
other, and even our kids could learn, like, oh,
Might fall through the cracks today.
Yeah.
Dad. Yeah.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break and hear from some of our sponsors. Family Trips is supported by Airbnb. Hey, Bashi.
Yeah, Sufi.
You know, the Pittsburgh Steelers schedule comes out, and we just immediately, you, me, mom, dad, start trying to find our weekend.
Yeah, we look in that calendar and then, we sort of throw our marker down.
And then once we throw our marker down, our next stop is Airbnb, because we, last year, famously, all stayed together under one roof in a wonderful home in Pittsburgh. Years before, we'd done hotels, and it just was such a nicer way to do it.
Yeah, it's nice to wake up, come downstairs, make a pot of coffee, and then have mom and dad roll out and have that coffee ready, have some bagels, just be able to sit around and have breakfast and feel almost like it would feel if we were in our own home.
And you know what we had that was really special? We had a porch swing.
Uh-huh.
We took photos on a porch swing.
Yeah.
Can I say something? Every one of them worse than the last. And I will say porch swings are wonderful. They take worse photos than you think. I think porch swings are good to take photos of children. I think for adults, it's just all thigh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
a real meaty, like a lot of meaty thighs in that photo.
I think I was standing off to the side.
You were smart. Point is, maybe you're someone right now who's listening. You're like, I got a porch swing. I've got one of these houses that has these little details, the details that I've put a lot of thought into. And maybe a family would like to come and stay at my place instead of at a hotel. Your home might be worth more than you think. Find out how much at airbnb.com/host. This episode of Family Trips is brought to you by Nissan.
Hey, Sufi, let's play a quick game. I'm going to say a word, and we both say the first word it makes us think of at the same time. Ready?
I am ready, Pashi.
All right. First word, cereal. Grape
Killers.
nuts. All right.
Oh, wait. Okay. We thought of different cereals. Okay.
Yeah, that's going to happen, but maybe let's try to lock in. Let's try to mind meld here.
Okay.
Next word, museum. The Louvre.
Gift shop as one word.
Okay. I said the Louvre. You said gift shop. I know we can be better at this. Let's try one more, all right?
Okay.
All right, last one. Rugged. The Nissan Pathfinder Rock Creek, where form meets function with stylish orange contrast stitching and water-repellent seat material.
Whoa.
Wow.
I thought you were going to say me
For
for rugged. Yeah.
Yeah.
Posh, with the Nissan Pathfinder Rock Creek, you can flex your ruggedness from rocky trails and muddy paths to sandy dunes and snowy roads.
Yeah, flex your ruggedness, Soup.
I will. Stop the laughing. Featuring 18-inch beadlock style wheels and all-terrain tires, plus a tubular roof rack with up to 220 pounds of dynamic capacity for loading up your gear, the Nissan Pathfinder Rock Creek is designed to be aggressive all the way up to the front grille.
And all the while, you can stay connected while you drive with wireless Apple CarPlay, allowing you to listen to unbelievable, life-changing, mind-blowing podcasts and also family trips.
Why also never mind. So thanks again to Nissan for sponsoring this episode of Family Trips. Now, go find your path and enjoy the ride along the way. Learn more at nissanusa.com. Can I do the fast part, Posh?
Please.
Intelligent four-wheel drive cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions. Cargo and load capacity limited by weight and distribution. Always secure cargo. Heavy loading in the vehicle with cargo, especially on the roof, will affect the handling and stability of the vehicle. Compatible device service and consumer activation and Nissan Connect services. Package required. Use only when safe and legal. Subject to third-party service availability. Apple CarPlay is a trademark of Apple Inc.
That's what it sounds like when you read to your kids.
Yeah, I just want to get to bed.
Here we go.
So you're the middle, older brother, younger sister,
That's correct.
close in age?
My brother's 4 years older. My sister is 6 years younger. So there's a bit of a gap.
That is a bit of a gap.
Yeah.
So did she go to, when she went to school, did she go to your school or your brother's school or a completely different one?
She went to Grace Church like I did. And then my mother actually started teaching there. She started subbing there when I was there. And then she got a full-time job, which she held for 30 years and became a legendary and beloved teacher on the Lower East Side. And when I walk your neighborhood now, Seth, when I walk around your neighborhood, Seth, I see people will come up to me and they don't they know who I am, but they don't necessarily like my work. They'll come up to me and say, my daughter, my son, my granddaughter, my grandson, my father, my mother, whatever was taught by your mom. And it's pretty special.
Believe it or not, we have the exact same thing with our mom, who is a middle school French teacher.
Really?
And when we are back in our hometown, that is what people at the grocery store want to come up and tell us.
But isn't that the best thing ever?
It's the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did your mom teach?
She taught kids how to read. She taught first grade, second grade, and she sang the vowel song, which went like this: A-A-E-O-O, A-A-E-O-O. Now we say our vowels. It was a little like that.
That's really
So I share that with you probably because this has happened.
Once again, David has shown us a martini glass or some sort.
It's a margarita glass.
It's
It's
a
an
margarita
empty,
glass, yes.
salted margarita glass.
Yeah.
He is in Greece.
It's just a prop.
Did your mother, when she substitute teached?
Yes.
That's
yes.
how you say that.
The
right?
answer is yes. The answer is yes.
You were her student.
I had to get thrown out of that class because I had to maintain my cred.
Yeah.
I did. I had to misbehave, and she would actually toss me. She'd toss me in the hallway.
Do you recall what you might have done to misbehave? Or
Just talking shit, whatever. But I had to, and
Yeah.
it's like a prison. It's very much like a prison, and you just gotta maintain.
Were you the kind of family that traveled? I mean, I guess that maybe you were.
No, we were not the kind of family that traveled. But we did have, I was lucky enough that my grandmother, Julia, which was not her name. I'm not going to tell you her real name. She wouldn't want that. Julia was a classy name. She thought it was classy. So that was her name. She worked in the garment district in New York, but she had a house in Fire Island. I don't know if you guys know Fire Island.
I've never been. That's another thing that I've never taken advantage of.
Well, that's what you should say when people say, "What should we do in New York?" Say, "Go to Fire Island."
Go to Fire Island. Look up David's grandmother. It's not Julia.
don't know her name.
I know it's not Julia.
It's
like something that sounds worse than Julia.
It's not her.
She called herself Julia Duco.
Oh wow.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes other names, but she had a house there. And we used to go there. That was our family, summer home. And it was really an amazing opportunity for me to get out of the city. Otherwise I would have been stuck. The summer in the city is tough. It's hot.
Did you go for the whole summer?
Yeah, I went for the whole summer. And it was just this idyllic. I had this very kind of split existence when I was a kid because I was firmly a city boy. And then and in Fire Island, there are no cars. So it's like you're Huck Finn. And it was just an amazing gift for us.
I've had it explained for me, but for people who have heard the name but don't quite know exactly how small it is, it's tiny, right?
Yeah, it's not even really an island. I think it's a sandbar. It doesn't really have much soil. There's a couple parts of it that have soil, sunken forest, it's called. They have some pine trees, but it's mostly just sand. It's like a spit. I don't know how long it is. I make it up, but it's, maybe a few miles long. And the width of it is in the hundreds of yards. It's not, you can see from one end to the other. And no cars. And now they have cars. Like people live there all year round.
It does seem like pretty bold in this day and age with global warming, to build a home on a sandy spit.
With a sunken forest nearby.
Well, they've always said, even back when I was a kid, they said Fire Island is going to sink. Nobody should buy here. Nobody should ever buy here. And now it's mandatory that you build a house on stilts. So it's basically like Venice or Amsterdam. The writing is on the wall, and it's just a matter of time. But
it's still too good to pass up.
why not fiddle while Rome burns? You know how human nature goes. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So when was the first time you were on an airplane?
I think when I was 10, we went to, my mother's from Scotland, and we went to visit Scotland because my parents were thinking of moving there. My father, we were going to move to London, and I was very upset because I didn't like the sports.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't know soccer or cricket or anything, and it was going to ruin my life because sports was my life at that point.
But you didn't know those two sports, so did you know other sports that you didn't like?
Other sports that I didn't like? No, I guess I could have played tennis. I like tennis.
Okay, all
I like basketball and baseball. Those were my passions.
I see.
And I was a very unimaginative child. And so we got on a plane. We went to Scotland, and I remember that vacation. We visited Loch Ness, and my dad had me pee in the loch because he wanted me and Nessie, the Loch Ness monster, to have like a bit of a thing. You know, he wanted Nessie. He wanted the rest of my life. He was like, we're going to anger this thing, and you know, you're going to pee in there, and you're just going to show her who's boss or whatever. So that was my dad. So my brother and I both peed in Loch Ness. I remember that, and I remember I was taken golfing by my uncle, and I'd never golfed. And I remember cheating. I remember cheating in my first round of golf as a 10-year-old. I remember hitting the ball way out somewhere and just hacking at it, 5 or 10 times, and then coming out of the woods and saying, "Yeah, I came out in like 2. It was just 2."
Yeah. I mean, if you've never golfed before, to be taken golfing in Scotland is like, it's going to be a disastrous outing. Yeah. So I almost feel like.
But what's wrong with me that I had to cheat? I'm still ashamed.
Did you? I think the adult who said how many strokes did it take you, maybe we should turn the tables on that. Now, could you enjoy that Scotland trip, or the whole time were you worried that your family was going to move to the UK?
I was worried. I enjoyed the lemon bonbons. They had this kind of candy that was a lemony thing and powdered sugar. I remember that. I have sense memories from it, and meeting my in-laws, which was interesting and everything. But I don't remember, so long ago, and I don't even remember that first sense of being on a plane. I don't remember, that this was a special moment or scary moment or whatever.
We went to Loch Ness, about 8 years ago, Posh?
Yeah. And thereabouts.
Yeah. It's really an impressive scam. Because it's a beautiful lake. And we took and by the way, that's, if they want to call soccer football, I'm going to call a loch lake. I'm not going to do it their way. But we you just kind of go out in the middle and go out. And I just remember there was the narrator on the whole thing. He's like, and then if you look up to the right, that's where they say, and it was just like this sort of haunting, and sort of everybody there. I thought the funniest thing was there were a few tourists who sort of had their camera like pointed down the whole time, just in case.
Well, it's a very deep loch, Yeah.
So it's a very deep.
Nessie could be down there. But what I remember also from that is we went up into the Highlands, and my Uncle Mac, again, he worked at a company called Clyde Fasteners, which Clyde is the River Clyde in Scotland, and they made these huge screws for ships. They were an engineering firm that made those huge rivets, basically, that keep ships together. And that was his job. And he had a lot of wealthy friends, I guess. And we went up into the Hebrides, where this guy named Hamish had an island. He just owned an island called Erid, which apparently Robert Louis Stevenson wrote Kidnapped about, because at low tide you could walk to the mainland, but at high tide you could drown trying to cross. So it had these big tides. And I was turning 10, and my fucking brother, he wound me up that that Hamish had all these little islands everywhere. And he wound me up that I was going to get an island for my birthday. And it didn't matter that it wasn't going to be an island that you could build anything on. But at 10 years old, think about like how empowered you feel to own land. I'm a landowner. What can I say?
Right. Yeah.
I may be in 6th grade, but I own a small piece of land. And
I mean, they're going to double, triple your line of credit at the, at the diner at that point.
At the candy store. So, yeah, I got 10 shillings. I didn't get an island. I didn't get anything.
Oh, 10
Okay.
shillings, yeah.
Yeah, 10 shillings. And then we went up into the Highlands where my mother had friends, a shepherd, and I was involved. And I'm going to tell two stories around this. One is mine, and the others I just learned, which I think I can tell it as if it's mine, but it's not. I won't tell it as if it's mine because it may not be true. I hope it is true.
Okay, great.
So I went, and it was sheep shearing season, and they had these huge burlap sacks hanging from the rafters of the barn. You know, I'd say 20, 30 feet long burlap sack. And they'd shear the sheep, and they'd toss the fleece up into the burlap sack. And I was in the sack. I was in the sack. And these fleeces would just come down, raining down over my head. And I have such a sense memory of this. And my job was to stamp them down so they could fit as many fleeces into this huge burlap sack as they could. But can you imagine how filthy that was?
Oh my gosh.
Can you?
Oh, yeah.
I have no memory of that.
I will say, I'm glad you said how filthy they are because I think as children's books, the depiction of sheep is deeply unfair to how filthy a sheep actually is.
They never talk about the matted shit on the back,
Yeah,
on the
they're
back of the sheep.
I almost feel like they're so mad that they know you're going to make it into a sweater for you that they're constantly like, I'm going to roll in shit. You'll have to, it's going to be so hard to clean this.
It's very possible. And I remember one of the sheep, as she probably was running from the barn, having been shorn. She kind of clipped her hoof on the ridge of the sliding door, and she jumped a little bit because it startled her. And then I got a lesson in sheep because, sure enough, every sheep after that did the same jump, even though they never clipped their foot. They did the exact same thing as she did.
Funny. They really are sheep.
Lesson.
They are sheep.
Well, it's a survival thing. You know, it's like nobody stands out. Nobody stands out.
Yeah. There you go. Blend in.
Yeah, for predators. So here's the other part of the story that didn't happen to me, but I wish it did. The first AD on this show that I'm doing here in Greece is Scottish, and he said he also was sent to the farm at around the same age, and the shepherd or the farmer said to him, "It's lambing. Is it lambing time? It's something they have to neuter the lambs." And so he was like, he's 10. He doesn't really know what that means. But he says, you'll be behind the lamb and you grab it and you lift it up and you hold the chest and, I'm going to take care of business. And, I'm going to give him the teeth. And my friend goes, what do you mean? He goes, well, let's do it. So we're doing it the old-fashioned way. So he holds the lamb, and the fucking guy, he bites the balls. He gives him his teeth. It's his teeth.
Oh my God, the farmer does it?
He bites the balls off of the lamb. That's how they did it.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Or that's not how they do it, and that's how that one farmer told your buddy, he's like, yeah, this is kind of the old school way.
I really don't want those guys to be mad at me.
Yeah, no, that's yeah.
Let's not anger that. That's
it is fun. I do feel like if you were at a Scottish pub and a fight started, a guy might say, I've been biting the balls off. You don't want to fuck with me. I've been biting the balls off sheep all day.
You also want to maybe point out to that guy that even the cavemen had like tools.
Right. Right.
Seth, if a Scottish man ever says to you, I'm going to give you the teeth, just run. Just don't involve yourself in that.
Yeah, they say never, don't, that's not, but what would that mean? Like, there's no good answer for a Scottish guy saying, I'm going to give you the teeth.
So that did not happen to me. But the other not so much vacation memories, but all my memories from that kind of time are from Fire Island. And I was a lifeguard out there, which was the best job I ever had. From the age of 14 to 18, I was a lifeguard on the ocean. And I was a lifeguard in 1976, which was the year that Jaws came out. So I was a lifeguard in the actual place, nearby where Jaws was supposedly happening.
Do you feel like at that point, the amount of respect people had for lifeguards, like you became the new first responders because of Jaw? Like all of a sudden you were like a fireman status?
What made you think that we were respected at all?
Well, I feel like before Jaws, no one had any respect for you. But then like post Jaws, it was like these guys, these are the last,
No, we had no respect. And it was tough because the community that we were in, they tried to discourage what they called day trippers. So
Sure.
they only wanted people in the community to use the town. So there were no public restrooms. You weren't allowed to eat on the beach, and so we had to enforce these, ridiculous rules. So we'd have to you can't eat on the beach. Also, there was no topless bathing, and as the youngest guard, they would always send me at 14 to go have to tell a woman to put her top back on, and that was awful, just awful.
Just like fighting every instinct you have.
Oh, just can't look. And I remember this one woman had scallop shells on her nipples.
Yeah.
And she knew I was mortified, so she kept on showing me, look, I'm covered up. I'm covered up. I got.
She was trying to use scallop shells as a loophole, a legal
exactly.
loophole. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing joining the scallop shells to make it a
sure.
That was your
balancing act.
Legally, they have to be connected by something for it to be a bathing suit.
Hold up, what's that, miss? My boss is telling me no, they have to be connected. They have to be.
When you were a lifeguard, were you sort of like alone on a chair, or were there a group of lifeguards that would?
Yeah, alone on a chair. Alone on a chair. A man alone. A man boy alone on a chair.
How beyond I know from lifeguards, it seems like the best place in the world to just sit and read a book, but obviously you can't read a book.
Seth.
Of course not.
We're on duty.
You're on duty.
We are on duty.
Was it a job that was deeply boring, or was it a job that was great because you were outside?
It was a great job because I got $12 a day. First of all, let's just say, so there was some legit money involved.
Yeah.
And then I felt like, I took, you could actually help somebody, if it came to that.
I feel like it always had a status for the people your age. Like I remember when I was 16, a friend of mine being a lifeguard at 16, I thought that was cooler than whatever I was doing in the summer.
Yeah,
delivering pizzas.
Well, you had to be civil service certified, and that you were kind of joining the adult workforce. But there was the summer of Jaws. Nobody went in the water. It was really astounding. What an effect that movie had on people going in the water. Still, I think to this day. But there was an incident where we were always looking with binoculars, especially that summer, looking for fins. Mostly we just see ducks, It's like, oh, what's this? It's a duck. And there was one time there was a fin, fairly close in the area, and you don't even know what kind of shark it is, but, you get them out. And we're whistling, and we're getting everybody out. And there's one woman who is not coming out. And my brother, he goes, Dave, go get her. I'm like, why? Why does Dave have to go get her? I'm like, I'm 14. I don't want to die, So send the older guard. He's lived more.
Was your brother a guard as well?
Yeah, he was like, Dave. I knew when my brother called me Dave, nothing good was going to happen. Like, Dave,
what would he call you otherwise?
He wouldn't say my name. It was just Dave.
So, Dave, and then do you remember having to go out and retrieve?
Absolutely.
And what was her issue?
Clearly.
She just didn't want to come in?
Oh, well, so I get out to about my knees. I've got my whistle, my metal whistle, and I'm blowing it. She's not responding. And then I get out to about my waist, and she's not responding. And I have to go actually, leave my feet and go out about 20 yards or whatever, past the breakers, and say, ma'am, there's a shark in the area. You got to come in. And she starts yelling at me immediately that how could I leave her out here with a shark? And I'm like, let's get in. And she was a real New Yorker. I'm going to have to stay back from the mic here. But she kept saying this as I'm like, let's get in. She's like, You motherfucker. I was shaking hands with a fucking shark. And you left me out there shaking hands with a fucking shark. And I'm 14 and I'm going, man, everybody else came out. We were whistling. I was shaking hands with a fucking shark. And I was like, ma'am, I don't think they have hands. I was shaking hands with a fucking shark.
Oh,
it was your
that's
fault.
Wonderful. God, that's the best. That is what a perfect New Yorker take on it.
Shaking hands with a fucking shark.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
did you have a uniform? Was it did the Fire Island?
Yeah,
life-
red trunks, just
Okay,
red
good.
trunks. You know, you want
Yeah.
to see us coming.
Short shorts, I'm guessing. Short shorts in 76.
No, they weren't that short. They certainly weren't the Speedos that you see on the Australian guys. You know, we were more modest. Well, we were children.
Was it sort of like a summer beach hang with the opposite sex in the summer?
Yeah.
It's like at what age?
Yeah.
And would you just go? Where would you hang with people your age?
In the town. It was
Yeah.
called, you'd go to town. That's what you'd actually say, going to town.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just hang out. There was nothing to do. You'd play pinball maybe, but there was no drinking. You know, maybe there's some weed at some point when you were a little older, but it was just hanging out in town with your guy friends and your girlfriends. And
And it was mostly New York City kids?
New York City, Long Island.
Yeah.
Yeah, mostly that. Yeah.
Did you make friends there that you didn't know in the city that you would keep
Oh,
summer
yeah.
to summer?
Yeah. And it was weird. You kept them almost like capsules. Like you had your winter people and you had your summer
Yeah.
people. My first girlfriend lived in Forest Hills, and it might as well have been the moon because, you know, we hung out during the summer, and I don't think I ever even called her like during the winter. And then I just assumed we'd pick up again, you know?
Yeah, sure.
She
That was
had different
incorrect.
plans?
That was,
She
that
had
was
different
incorrect.
plans,
She didn't quite understand why I didn't ever call.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break and hear from some of our sponsors.
This episode of Family Trips is brought to you by McDonald's. Hey, Pashi.
Yeah, Sufi.
You know, I've often got a whole family in my car.
Yeah. You got a lot of kids.
Yeah, I also don't have to tell you, this podcast is about family trips, and one of the key things about a family trip is keeping them fed. And sometimes you're on the road, and everybody's hungry, and you just time. Time is of the essence, my man. Do you hear me? Mm-hmm. Time.
I do. I hear you.
And what I love about the McDonald's app is you can order your food in advance. You can sense that this window is about to close where you can feed your children and they will not melt down. And what I love about the McDonald's app, amazing deals all the time, Pashi. Free medium fries. Or sometimes even a QPC BOGO deal. BOGO, you know what BOGO is, Posh?
Buy one, get one.
Buy one, get one. And that's great because I buy one for one kid, another one gets one, and the third one fends for themselves.
That's how you find out who's the strongest.
Yeah, downloading the McDonald's app is a no-brainer because you get a new deal every single day. I would say the most important time for us, like 3. If it's 3 p.m. and we maybe had we had too early a breakfast before we got on the road, and then the kids decided because of that early breakfast, they had to have way too early a lunch. Right? It's like 10:40. They're eating lunch. And now all of a sudden it's 3 and you're just like, we're not going to make it. We got to get some food in their bellies. And that's when we love McDonald's. We love saving money. It's a match made in heaven.
Save money every day with the McDonald's app. Must opt in for rewards.
Family Trips is supported by Game Time. Hey, Pashi,
Yes, Sufi.
you love a concert.
I love concerts. And I buy a lot of tickets for a lot of concerts. And sometimes I buy those tickets just right when they come on sale. And then the show rolls around and I'm not able to go because I'm not in town or whatever. And that's kind of a bummer. But a smarter approach I found is using Game Time.
You love a smarter approach.
I love a smarter approach. And Game Time makes getting tickets for concerts and events faster and easier, even if you don't buy tickets right away, because prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the show's start time.
And another thing Game Time has, which I appreciate, is last-minute deals. Sometimes I'll realize, staring at one of my kids, there's a game in town. And instead of just staring at them for the next few hours, I can give them a memory that they would remember forever. And you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc.
Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code TRIPS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code TRIPS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Here we go.
So Julia is your grandmother. Did she didn't live full time on Fire Island. It was
God,
about
no.
a summer.
No.
Where did she live in the city? Where did your grandmother live?
Murray Hill. Murray
Okay.
Hill.
Was she the kind of grandmother that you guys would spend time with during the week?
No.
Okay.
No. She did not want to be known as having grandchildren.
Well, she's Julia Duco, so
Yeah,
Exactly.
She doesn't know these two covenant
she had a
kids.
persona.
Exactly.
You have no
It's-
connection to me.
It might have been okay if I was her son. That might have been palatable to her
Yeah.
in terms of like people thinking about her age.
Do you think was she doing pretty good for herself socially in the city as a woman who was not believed to have grandchildren?
My grandfather, Moishe, he wrote for the Yiddish newspapers, the Forward. Actually, that's how they pronounce it, but it's the Forward. But if you see it written, it's Forvert. The Forward.
That's not helping the accent any.
Yeah, the accent is actually in the writing.
Yeah.
And he wrote serialized. He wrote like soap opera serialized stories for that paper. And my dad said, and he was also a theater critic. And in fact, I went to see Elie Wiesel, the famous Nobel Prize winning Holocaust survivor. And I was sitting in the theater, 92nd Street Y, and this young man came up to me and he said, "I'm Elie Wiesel's son, and he knew your grandfather, and he'd like to say hi to you after the talk," which was on the Book of Job. And I was like, "Oh, I'd love to meet Elie." And then, sure enough, I went back, and he was like, "Yes, I knew your grandfather. He was a very charming, very, very nice man." I was like, because my grandfather died when I was, months old. I was barely on the planet, so I never met him that I remember. But he wrote this serialized, very, I think, melodramatic Yiddish theater kind of soap opera. And my dad said people used to call the house wanting to know what's going to happen. And he said Moishe didn't know because he basically wrote it on the subway on the way to work.
Yeah.
Seth was like,
great.
"Yeah, that's how I do my monologue."
Exactly. Yeah. Well, no, I have a staff of people that write it on the subway. Where did Moishe immigrate from?
Ukraine.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Look at that.
He's from Kiev. And Julia, not her real name, was from Warsaw, from Poland. And they met at the workers' camp, which was kind of a hotbed of young communist thought and philosophy in Jersey in the 20s, I guess,
Wow.
in the teens, 20s, and they had my father. But Moishe died, as I said, and Sticker was the man I knew as my grandfather, because Sticker is the one who was with Julia when I was a kid.
Gotcha.
And his name was Meyer Sticker, but we only knew him as Sticker, and that's all you said was Sticker. Like, "Hey, Sticker." And Sticker was really great. He was really kind to us kids, and he always had a big front pocket full of change. And I was into pinball, so he'd always he's one of those old Jews who had a pocket full of coins. Do you remember those old Jews?
Yes.
Yeah. Where are they now?
Well, it's with change. I think the problem is no one has change.
No, never since COVID. Like nobody.
Yeah, they have a pocket. They have a pocket full of Venmo.
So Julia once said to me, when Moishe died, I could have had any man in New York. That's Julia for you, right? She said that to me. And I'm probably 5 when she's saying this to me. And she said, "But I knew Sticker, and Sticker was best friends with Moishe. That was the thing. I knew Sticker, so I took Sticker in, and she was like, "But he didn't touch me for 6 years because he was afraid that the ghost of Moishe would strangle him in his sleep."
They say like wait. It's like at 6 years you're safe because they feel like at that point if the ghost hasn't done anything,
From the ghost of your best friend.
that would be a great Jewish tradition. Give it 6 years. We're actually our last name is Myers because we had a Meyer first name. That
Oh,
on
you had a
but
you
on
had
the
a Meyer.
coming through of or it wasn't Ellis Island, but it was one of those the
What
feeders.
was? Have you done the Finding
Yeah, I
Your
did
Roots
that.
and
I did
stuff?
the Finding Your Roots. It was like basically they didn't have. It would have been what Trakiansky. It would have been a Lithuanian town name.
Yeah, Trakiansky or Trakanovich, something.
Trakiansky. Yeah. So, but
Yeah.
Myers is the winner that way. Stickers. I mean, you couldn't write a better name than Sticker.
Meyer Sticker. Sticker, he was an Austrian Jew, and he was a poet, and he translated The Wasteland into Yiddish.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
That
And
ain't
he
nothing.
translated The Old Man and the Sea into Yiddish. The Hemingway.
Wow. Where did your Jewish father meet your Scottish mother?
I'll get to that, but can I do my Wasteland Yiddish joke?
Yeah.
Please. I mean,
It goes like
I'm
this.
just worried a lot of our guests have done one, so I just hope it's not a bump.
You know, I know wasteland jokes is, you know, everybody's got one, but I'm just gonna throw them out. So famously, it begins, April is the cruelest month, and it begins, April is the cruelest month, breeding dried tubers out of the dead land. But in Yiddish, it reads something like this: April is the cruelest month, and May is not so good either.
It's a really good wasteland joke.
It's one of the best
Classic
wasteland jokes.
Sticker.
Classic T.S. Eliot riff. Come on.
Even T.S. Eliot liked that one, and he famously
Classic.
didn't have a good sense of humor about the wasteland.
And did not like Jews either. So
Well, there you go.
yeah.
Scottish accent on your mother?
No, she's kind of neutral.
Okay.
Kind of maybe that's why I don't have like a really strong New York accent. Although people from Manhattan generally don't have the
Right.
the famous New York accent. So no, she was kind of neutral, but she said she had some, you know, phrases and things like that that were obviously Scottish. She said like "I'd na ken" for "I don't know," or "I can, I know," or you know, "Sweet bugger all" meant nothing, or you know, "What'd you get, Mom?" "Sweet bugger all," "Sweet bugger all." Everything was "sweet bugger all." That's a very Scottish kind of like life is like you're going to get "sweet bugger all," you know, and it's a good attitude to have because anything else you get is just a win.
Yeah. Was your father, would you say, an optimistic fella?
Oh no.
Okay.
No, he was he wasn't like a pessimist, but he was what was he? You know, he must have been optimistic because his entire life he wanted to be a novelist, but he had a family and he had to support that. He had to work kind of a 9-to-5 life, but he died at 76, but at 75, he published his first novel. He published
really?
a novel. At 75, he published a novel that was reviewed well in the New York Times. And, you know, bless him, he said he was a novelist, and he was. And,
Was he was it something, could you tell how proud he was of having gotten that done?
Absolutely. He had written other things. When we were kids, he would write actually short political satire things that would bring in some bucks. He wrote The Wisdom of Spiritu Agnew, which was a compilation of Agnew quotes, you know, almost like if you were to make The Wisdom of Donald J. Trump.
Yeah,
and
no,
just-
I feel like those books are probably,
Yeah.
I bet that was probably more unique of a thing then.
Right. He wrote On with the Wind, a biography of Martha Mitchell, who was married to the Attorney General. And she was famously kind of loose-lipped. He wrote The Establishment Dictionary, which was fake derivations of words in the establishment. He wrote a play that was on Broadway for a couple days, which was not a funny play, but it was the trial of Lee Harvey Oswald. So it was if Oswald had lived, it was his trial. But this was 1967. It was only 4 years after the assassination, and you know, people did not want to see Kennedy stuff, I think, at that point.
Right.
Or at least they didn't want to see my father's play.
It is funny. I mean, I would also allow him to be like, yeah, it was bad timing. You know, we got to give him that.
But he always said, you were a very astute critic from the beginning because he said, I came to see the play and it was 2 acts. And the first act, the actor playing Oswald, I believe, is Mary Stuart Masterson's father. I think his name is Bat Masterson, or I think it's a long line of Mastersons who have been actors. And anyway, this was A. Masterson, and he was playing Oswald. And Ralph Waite, who was in the Waltons, he was the dad on the Waltons. He was playing either the defense attorney or the prosecuting attorney. But Oswald sits on stage he doesn't speak a word for the entire first act, which is probably over an hour long. And my dad said to me, "What did you think about the play?" "What did you think about the play?" And I was 7. And I said, "How does Oswald not have to pee?" So I was riveted.
Was it important to you to raise your kids in New York City? Because I would imagine L.A. would have probably made more sense.
Yeah. Well, we were in L.A. and it was really at some point we just started thinking about trying New York, and then we just kind of, we got there and we stayed, and then I actually got divorced while I was in New York, and therefore I had to stay in New York I wanted to be with my kids. Mm-hmm. So I had never really wanted to move back to New York. Really, I mean, I love New York, but I've spent enough time there, in my life, and I excuse me, I like being out in LA. I like being in a different part of the world, mm-hmm. after a point.
Well,
but, I will say that raising kids in New York from the ages of maybe 10 to 16 is kind of great.
Yeah.
Just because they get, they can be independent. Like 10 to 16 in LA, they're in the backseat of the car all the time. But in New York, they, at 10 or 11 or 12, you're okay with your kid kind of being out there in the city alone. And it's, I don't think you can put a judgment on that. I think it's great for kids to be able to just do their own thing. And then, of course, there was the pandemic, so then there was that got screwed up.
But that's over now. That's over
now. Would you go to? Because this year, I brought my kids who are 8 and 6. I brought my 8-year-old to a Rangers game, my 6-year-old to a Knicks game. And it is so exciting to have something downtown in a city that is easy to get kids to. Yeah. When you were a kid, were you going to different New York sports events live?
No, I wasn't. It just wasn't like part of what people were doing around me. I was aware that Madison Square Garden was within 2 or 3 miles of my house, my apartment. I remember seeing Phil Jackson, riding his bike to the game. It was a smaller world.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I remember somebody telling me they had Dave Cowens drive them in a cab in Boston, because they had to have a job after, up until maybe late 70s, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
They weren't making, and the stories about baseball players doing real estate, you see Mickey Mantle doing those old Carvel commercials and shit like that. Like, what did he get? Like $500?
And a cake, 2 cakes.
And it was worth it.
And they're so drunk. If you ever get a chance, like look it up, Whitey Ford and Mickey Mantle doing a Carvel commercial, and they are fucking wasted.
It's the
best. So no, I never went to games. I'm sure I did. I think I went to Met games because I clipped coupons off of the Dairy Lee milk cartons.
Yeah.
And if you clipped, I believe the number was 7 million coupons. You could get the worst seat in the stadium.
Would you have gone to that alone, or with friends, or with one of your siblings?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't remember, but I do remember catching Rusty Staub's foul ball.
I never caught a foul ball.
Me either.
LeBron d'Orange. Yeah, I caught it on the rebound. I was way up in the mezzanine, and it hit off like a stanchion above me, and I got on the rebound. I can still remember that.
How long do you think you saved it as a priceless artifact before it finally got lost?
I don't remember ever seeing it again, to be honest. I'm sure I had it for a while.
It is a thing. You catch it and you think it's great, and then nobody cares. You know what I mean? Because it's only a famous ball for you.
Well, the amazing thing is catching it at the game. That's the amazing thing. It's like all of a sudden you're like part of the game, Yeah. And it's that it's that aspect of it.
Yeah, because everyone's looking at you all of a
but
sudden.
it's also
Like there's a game, and then all of a sudden, all the focus.
time. And you don't want to be the guy that bobbles it or steals it from another child or whatever.
Yeah. But if you've cut out 7 million things, then maybe you steal it from a kid.
I just
what you've gone through to get here.
don't know how much milk I drank.
Did you, when you started traveling, your kids are close in age, yes?
They're about 3 years apart.
Did they travel well together?
Oh yeah, they were great. And my son, he loves fishing, so we'd often go down to the Caribbean, and he just wanted a big game fish, because what we get in the Northeast are like striped bass or stuff like that. He wanted the big game fish, and I would always try, and I'd go on I don't like fishing. I don't necessarily like being on the little boats, and I would try. We'd hire the boat, and oh man, I would get so fucking seasick.
It's a disaster.
Just like, please,
but you just did it as a good
catch
dad.
A fish. Well, yeah. I mean, he wanted that fish.
Did he ever get it?
He was like fucking Quint in Jaws. He still loves fishing. He'll fly fish. I mean, he's actually he knows what he's doing out there. I don't think he's gotten the billfish. That's what he wanted, the billfish, which is like a marlin or a swordfish or something.
Have you gone fly fishing?
I haven't, but Taya, my ex, does, and she does with my son, and they love it. They love it.
It's not for me, but
it's not for me either.
Yeah,
what
we've
is
tried
wrong
it.
with us? What's wrong with us?
It seems like it should be something that I like. But
Right.
I really didn't. Yeah.
I can't. I can't be still, and I can hike and like let my mind wander. My mind cannot wander if I'm still. I just feel like I'm very aware of the fact that I'm in one place and I don't like it. David, this has been a fantastic conversation, and
But I want
I'm
to
very
say
excited.
again, Seth, I'm sorry I can't see you when I'm coming to New York this time, but next time. And I want to send you the movie. I want you to see it. I think
I'm very
you'll love
excited.
it.
As Red Sox fans, I'm
I
very
know.
excited.
I know.
I'm a little upset that someone from New York made a film about Red Sox fans,
Fuck it.
and we'll talk about that next time I see you in person.
Reverse the curse, correct?
Yes, Reverse the Curse. It was based on my novel Bucky Fucking Dent. And the algorithm doesn't like asterisks or curses, so we had to.
It was it's a great title for a book, and it's a good title for a movie. If you can't do that,
if it wants to have a life and not be buried by the algorithm. But Seth, doing great work, still loving A Closer Look and all that.
Thank you, David. We do before you go, real quick. Josh is going to ask you our speed round questions.
All right, here we go. You can only pick one of these. Is your ideal vacation relaxing, adventurous, or educational?
Adventurous.
What's your favorite means of transportation? Train, plane, automobile, boat, bike, walking, etc.
I like a car.
Okay.
Automobile.
If you could take a family vacation with any family, alive or dead, real or fictional, other than your own family, what family would you take a family vacation with?
Oh, man. The Freuds. I like to go on vacation with the Freuds.
Sigmund and company?
Sigmund and Anna and, all the Lucian.
Just
we can go over
a
generations.
chill group of people.
Yeah.
If you had to be stranded on a desert island with one member of your family, who would it be?
Can alive or dead, or they have to be alive?
Yeah.
Let me be clear. They're not going to be dead on the island. I'm not asking for a dead person
Nice.
to be
Very,
on the
very smart to ask. Usually we burn people right after we say it.
So it can be dead or alive. I'd like to be with my dad.
All right. Great.
Yeah.
From New York City, would you recommend New York City as a vacation destination for a family?
Not really.
Okay.
All right, man.
Would you, Seth?
Yeah, but I would.
Okay,
I
you
think
have
I
to.
would.
You have
I
to.
would, and then they'd say, "What do we do?" And I'd be like, "I don't
Right.
know. Look elsewhere."
Just stay in your hotel room and look out the window. It'll be fine.
And Seth has our final questions.
Have you been to the Grand Canyon?
Yes, I have. I just love that, like, when you are a New Yorker and people ask you what to do, you tell them to do all these things that you've never done.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's so many things that having kids forces you to. I chaperoned a field trip to the Central Park Zoo, and 100% the first time I've walked in there. You know what I mean? Like,
Kidding. I love that zoo.
It's
I love
great,
that
but
zoo.
I wasn't like single 32 being like, gonna go to that little zoo.
And I've walked through it like probably 10 to 15 times in my life.
You can walk
like,
through it without
Yeah.
paying. Yeah, you can get through it. It's kind of stumble.
And I don't live in New York, so yeah. there you go.
I'll leave you with one last story. The New York story was when we did move. My son was probably 5, and I was going to take him to the Empire State Building, and I was excited, because I don't think I'd been ever.
Mm-hmm.
So he was dead set against it. He was like pissed. He was crying. He was pissed. I was like, "What the?" It's like we're just going to the Empire State Building. Just like relax, and we're in the cab, and he's like howling. I don't want to go. And I was like, "What is wrong with you? We're just going to a building, just going up high." And he's like, "I don't want to go to the Empire State Building."
Well, that was a very reasonable reaction. Now that you hear his
Absolutely, I
logic
was
on
like,
it.
"Dude,
Yeah.
I'm with you on that."
You should
I don't
say
wanna go
King
to the
Kong will beat up all
Yeah,
those
exactly.
vampires and we'll be
Exactly.
fine.
You said yes, and my last thing is the Grand Canyon worth it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I think so.
All right.
I
I,
think
didn't
so.
know where you're going to land on that, but we're going to put you in the yes column.
Yeah, I think so. What would you say?
I've never been.
And he's
No?
not interested in
I
going.
have no interest. Yeah.
No, I get that. I think if you find yourself near it, I would
Yeah.
say go.
Yeah.
All right. A lot would happen. I feel like
That would be
not,
my advice. That would be my advice.
not to like shit on the American Southwest, but like I don't think I'm going to be near it.
Your wife's from New Mexico.
Yeah, I just feel like if I'm near it, something's gone wrong. Thank you, David. Enjoy Greece, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, man. Good to
All
see
right.
you always. Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Family chips with the Myers brothers. Family chips with the Myers brothers. Here we go.
Thanks again to Nissan for sponsoring this episode. Learn more at nissanusa.com.